you want to make sure that your shadow boards are used optimally? Of course you do. So stay tuned for these 5 tips on how to use shadow boards within 5S. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we make operational excellence practical and hopefully a bit of fun as well, especially today when we're gonna be talking about shadow boards. It's one of those nice doodly dry thingies that, well, if you approach it like that, can really hurt your business as well. I have honestly seen so many shadow board implementations just become stale quality audit thingies somewhere next to a line, really not helping the operators. What a waste. So today, let's go into how you can make shadow boards really work for you. Now, the first tip, and this I told in my last video about the 5S tips, this sort of comes out of that 5S video. So many things happening around workplace organization that are sort of tied back into where do I place my tools? Shadow board. So the first tip might surprise you. And that is, well, those boards. Do we need them? So that's especially for 5S, right? Shadow boards are just one of the so many tools to organize your instruments. They are absolutely optional. You don't need to have shadow boards. They just happen to be one of the best ways to organize tools, instruments, cleaning stuff in a way where you work with multiple people, you can easily see what's happening. But that doesn't mean that everything needs to be on one of those boards. Please don't. Right? Stuff that you use maybe once a month or so probably doesn't need to be shadow boarded at all, because you don't really need that daily control there, that easy visual, basically every time you walk the area type of control. So why invest in not just the materials for setting it up, that's not that expensive, but the space, the thinking space of what shall we put on here, the organization, the checking afterwards. It's not always needed. So don't put everything on a board. But then tip 2 luckily counterbalances this, because I do like shadow boards and this video really is about shadow boards. Don't worry about that. So also do make lots of boards. Right? Do these two contradict each other? No, not really. No. The whole thing is, you need to put shadow boards where they add value. And it really is about the boards. So if you have, and I see this so often when the quality or safety, but usually the quality department, decides where the shadow boards go and what should be on them. Or sometimes the central maintenance department does this. And but the quality team, they tend to put in place a shadow board with the cleaning tools per department, per line, stuff like that. This happens a lot. I work in food a lot. So in food and pharma, this is completely standard. That this is even part of your external auditing systems, or your certification audits, that you need to have an organization for your tools. What's a good organization? Shadow board. So somebody with a quality and hygiene background designs a shadow board with all the tools that they think the operator of that line will need. And they put it somewhere next to the line. Yeah, well, that sort of messes up all kinds of things we'll also still get into, but the main thing is, it has to be based on the work you do, right? This is part of 5S, it is part of the organization of your workplace to make work optimal, to have all the stuff that you need. So please don't put it in one location for an area or a line that sort of is logical. No, put it there where you need it. And that means if you need a key number 13, for instance, right? If you need it at 3 places along the line and it's quite a walk, put it there 3 times. But please also put it very close to where you need it. I would even say put it bolt it onto the line, so to say, right? So I'm really not against having those little hooks on the machinery. Make the shadow there, make sure you label what needs to be there. Great, right? So have as many copies of a tool location as you need, because the whole idea is that you have the tool where you need it. Especially any tool that you use multiple times per shift should be there where you need it. So those tools, if you need them in different locations, copy the tool. Like, have multiple copies on hand on their own little shadow board. Also, I'm very sure that any big industrial line will need different tools over at that end than in the middle and over at that end. So make 3 at least different shadow boards. Don't confine yourself to one shadow board per line. Set it up in such a way that it becomes a good part of your routines. That, for instance, the brooms and other sweeping stuff, if you put them next to the waste bin, then you know that you sort of have them at a logical place to leave them after you're done. Well, that's ideal, but the wet stuff is probably there where the sink is. So that alone is already a good reason to split those tools. But with your more technical tools, your hand tools, your screwdrivers and stuff like that, absolutely split it out. Little cleaning brushes, either the copper brush or a hard plastic brush to clean out parts of your line. Please do put them at several places where they are needed. Don't be afraid to put specialized tools on your board. Right? That is all part of thinking, where do I need my tools? And that's where I'm going to organize them. And the board idea is only so that you have a clear visual place of, here are a couple of tools, there's a shadow there to make it very clear what tool should be there or is missing at this moment. And it's a visual thing. The goal is not to have just one tool location for each line. So if you then do get those boards, and especially, and again, I know quality people, don't be mad at me, but when I see quality departments design cleaning tool boards, it goes wrong so often. So one of the other things that I see a lot is that you decide on, we're going to use a color per line or a color per department. And especially the color per line, a color per area idea is very popular, so that we organize this area and they all got the green tools, so that if we then see that colleagues from that other area who maybe don't yet have 5S, or even if they do but they're just less organized, they come and borrow the green tools to their blue area, we'll see, hey guys, bring it back to where you found it. Why is this important? So that somebody else hasn't organized their place, it's a hassle, but come on, those tools aren't that expensive. So just make sure that you have everything in place. But okay, in any case, stuff will get missing, stuff will break. The goal of 5S is not to pinpoint that stuff breaks or to punish somebody who misplaced something. No, it's that you always have the stuff you need. So make sure that you have spare tools. You should be at any time during the day, also at night, be able to replace missing or broken tools. That means you need to have some spares, especially in the beginning. But even later on, have a couple of spares, just in case. But in the beginning, if you are going to organize one pilot area, and that is what we did recommend in the 5S video, right? You are going to organize one, maybe 2 areas. Those areas will soon become known for 2 things. They are the boss's pet, so let's mess with them. Unfortunately, that is a thing. And more importantly, they have the tools. They also have the tools that we need. So if I'm, missing a broom or an Allen key, and I don't really know where to get it, hey, they over in that newly minted 5S shadow board area there, I know they have got stuff, so I will borrow it and not bring it back. That happens. And many managers think it's a huge problem. I'm thinking, oh, okay, you're doing a service to your colleagues as well. Nice, okay. Take two learnings from that. First, also go do 5S and shadow boards in their department because apparently they need it. And just replenish the stuff that you have. So get yourself some spares. Also make sure that if you do work around the clock in shifts, that the shift manager, or even lower level, but at least people who are there during the night shift, have the key to the spare warehouse where you store the stuff, because they need to be able to get it at all times. If you have a register of which spares that you have to put on the board or something like that, instruct any shift leader or night manager or whatever in exactly the same way. Right? Don't make this dependent, especially not on yourself being there only during the day, but not even on the production manager. They're also going to be there just during the day, right? That'll mess up your system. Make sure that at any time you can replace items to your board, and that means you need to have spares. Then, sorry quality people, the other thing that I see so often with a centrally implemented shadow board, it is, maybe I should have just made it a tip to ask the operator, right? Don't do this from an auditing perspective. It's sort of in here. But the next one is also really, this happens when a CI manager, a quality specialist, a production manager with a good lean heart implements this. So yeah, that is probably you. If you fall within the 90% of my audience, then this is something that you might actually do. We don't have shadow boards to make things pretty. But please don't make it a goal to have pretty boards. I'm not against pretty boards. That's okay. But they have a couple of huge drawbacks. The main one being you're not focusing on the actual work and workplace. And close second is pretty boards. Usually you gotta order them from outside. They're like custom made in your company colors. It's all very nice. So nobody can change them. And yeah, we can only order them through you, and maybe they can only be ordered in, meter by 1.5, and all kinds of limitations. Not good. No. They should be practical. They should be there where needed. Small, big, whatever, right? Get the stuff on there that you need, and just make sure that you can put boards wherever you need them. As many or as few as you need. That you can change out what's on those boards. That is practical. Also, a big part of that practical is, and it links into the spares as well, if you only need a size 9, 13, and 18 key on your line, well, it's often cheaper to buy yourself a set that goes all the way from 6 up to 18. So I see companies put the whole set on the board. Why? Right? Throw away the rest if you need to. Hand it out to somebody who likes them. Whatever you do with it. But if you cannot procure just those specific keys that you need, because it was cheaper or easier to get a whole set, okay, fine. But don't put the whole set on the board. Also, some tools will go missing or break quicker than others. Anything you buy in a set, you only need that one. So probably don't buy in sets, but only put those things on there that you actually use. So that very often means that from a pre-bought set, you toss half of it away. And the other thing about the boards should not be pretty. And here we go back to that example of a color of cleaning tools per area. What I then almost always see is that the shadow has the same color as the tool that should be there. And while that is absolutely pretty, and it sort of shows which color should be there, that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? The whole idea of a shadow is that it is obvious when things are missing. So I should be able to see from a big distance, like, hey, that tool is missing. If you make the shadow the same color as the tool that should be there, I have to get up real close before I can actually see that things are missing. So if you really want to do this color thing, make the whole board the color of the tools that's on there, and the shadows a nice and bright contrasting color. But honestly, skip that whole color thing. If you use color in cleaning tools for this is allowed in dirty areas, like this is allowed to touch sewage areas, stuff like that, and this other color is allowed to be used inside of equipment, yeah, that is a functional use of color, a much more functional use than splitting between departments. So yes, okay, but in this case, do something with the rest of the color of the board, or make it like a double striped system where you have bands of the color that it should be and white or so that it still is super visible that something is missing. It must be obvious that things are missing. That's how a shadow board works. So the shadow gives the shape of what needs to be there. If needed, a label to clarify, but it should not have that same color. Now, I wanted to put visual here, but that's a word that gets thrown around so much. But that's the whole idea of visual management, right? So that you use your visual cues immediately to see things, to get the info, and to help you set actions. So don't make your boards to be pretty. Don't make them to pass an audit. This board is not to pass an ISO audit. It will help you if you do it in a good way. But the reason why those quality audits and process audits and safety audits really like to see the boards is because they know that if you have a good 5S implementation in your factory with useful shadow boards as a big supporting tool in there, well, you probably have a very organized process, and it really helps with quality. It helps with machine maintenance. It helps with safety. But those are not the goals of your shadow board. The goal of your shadow board is to make the workplace easier, to never misplace your tools. That's what it has to be about. And now that we're on that one anyway, I sort of mean now that we're on a central quality or safety or OPEX department designing the boards, there's other people who work with the boards, right? And when they work with the boards, they will see what works, what doesn't, what might need to be changed. Make sure you can update the system. You do it from time to time. So that does also mean maybe you shouldn't completely pre-order everything with glued on bags and shapes and stuff like that, because you need to be changing it. I would, especially in the beginning, sort of go for just draw it on with a marker. I like markers. Draw it on, do things like that. First see how it works, only then make it pretty. And if you do it with external printing, budget that you're gonna have to do some changes, maybe even every quarter or so. So allow people to use a big marker and add stuff to their board or remove, and then frequently, periodically update your boards, update your system. Update based on what? Well, based on how the team of people who are actually working that workplace, the operator for short, but that's any set of people, any group that are working that area or that workplace, how they feel about it, what they need, what works, what doesn't, what extra tool would they need. Do they actually, for their work, need to have 2 copies of the same tool? Because if you got 2 keys, you can actually tighten the bolt from both sides. Yeah, probably stuff like that. Not needed for most places and lines, but sometimes you do, right? So those type of things, I'm sure that when you implement your boards the first time, you're going to overlook something. I also will definitely not get your board right the first time. So make sure that you improve upon your boards. Maybe some boards have to go. Maybe you have to get some extra boards. Maybe you need to rearrange, reorganize how you get your spares, how many you need, what type you need. Maybe the quality of the tools needs to change. Make sure that you don't do this for any externals or any beauty contest. Get it practical and use the visual management aspect that the shadow board is meant for. And then you are gonna level up your shadow board usage so much, my friend. If any of these ideas gave you some great insights in how to level up your shadow boards, don't forget to hit that like button. comment in the comments as well. What other tool would you like a couple of practical implementation tips on? I'll be happy to help on those as well. And while you're at it, add your own tips. I mean, 5 is nothing. There's plenty of practical tips. Let us all know your experiences, your best practices. For now, I wish you the best of luck with your shadow boards. And as always, don't forget to also enjoy the continuous improvement journey.